Welcome to A Place at the Table and to the big conversations. I'll be highlighting the silver lining to the cloud of child sexploitation, the good in social media. Welcome back, Zuma.
Thanks, Kate. I'll be continuing the theme of child welfare from a different angle and speaking on family planning by saying, don't leave it to chance, plan it.
Planning and preparedness is right, Zuma. I'll be speaking on what happens when people have been proactive against the injustices of discrimination and are themselves accused of being unjust. Have you guys heard of the Fearless Fund?
I certainly look forward to hearing more, Bright. Still on preparedness, I'll be spotlighting a global state of unpreparedness that has consequences, which none of us will be able to dodge. But first, I have the pleasure of welcoming to the table Omoyele Sowore.
Thank you, Yinka. It's certainly good to be here, and take it from me, I'll be laying my cards on the table, throwing out a challenge to our youth, Nigerian youth. It's a case of not too young to run or not yet ready to run.
Okay, there lies the question. And there's a lot to anticipate from the lineup. Let's not leave things on a cliffhanger. I know you're keen to know what comes next after the break. The good in social media. In a police press release dated 12th of May 2024, which read, the Edo State Police Command is aware of the trending video of a child of about 4 years old conspicuously naked and used as adult content in an undisclosed hotel in Auchi, Edo State. The Commissioner of Police, Edo State Command, CP Funsho Adegboye, immediately drafted a tactical team to go all out and arrest the suspects and his cohorts. Within 12 hours, the father of the girl was arrested. Investigation has commenced, and further revelation will be made known to the public. Over the course of about 3 weeks ago or so, I was tagged numerous times on a post on Instagram, pictures and videos of a very young child being sexualized as she was indeed barely clothed, was circulated and originated from a particular page where the handler of the page claimed to be the father of the girl. The more the account got reported by a lot of people, including myself, the more the handler posted more videos. The child was surrounded by adult men, and in one she was kissing him full on the lips. I tagged the appropriate NGOs and was relieved to read the above statement from the police days later. I can say that social media can be used for a lot of good, and this is one of such instances. But however, I think the creator of the app itself has a huge responsibility to superintend over contents that can be posted on its page. Such posts should be flagged immediately. It's a crazy world out there, and there are a lot of sick individuals who should not be allowed to ply their perverse trade. Children, most especially, should be protected as they're very, very vulnerable. We all should go a step further outside of social media. If you see something evil, say something and keep the appropriate authorities informed. I look forward to the findings from the police. It's 2 weeks already. That's what community is all about.
The technology platforms have to be held accountable. Like you said, there are a lot of weird and perverse people that have mental issues across the world. And these platforms need to be able to put structures, algorithms, and technology in place to be able to flag, especially now where we have access to AI. If they're able to create structures that could identify a content that is original, a content that has copyright in music, a content that is made with your phone from the app, and they're able to say, oh, this content needs to be sponsored, so they make sure that your followers don't see it. They should be able to create algorithms that can do the same thing to flag negative content. So I feel like we need to get to a point where our lawmakers, just like they do it in America, we should call this, these tech bros to the house and ask them questions. First of all, where are our data going to? How is it being used, right? Because whether we like it or not, as Nigerians, as Africans, as humans, we spend a lot of time on our technology platforms. And most of the time that we spend there, we consume content. And so if these tech companies have the rights and the technology to choose what we see based on the algorithm, there's a possibility that they can design a structure where most of the things that we see are things that are not beneficial to us, especially our young people. So how do we make sure that we're able to put up platforms or committees that can hold them accountable and make sure that our data are protected? We're able to drive the kind of narrative that we want our young people to see and also to be educated, and we're able to be in control of these platforms.
A lot of people assume that even the tech bros are themselves not sick. Some of them are sick. This is true. I've been in campuses of some of the biggest tech companies in the US. And the people who manage your information are the regular, sometimes okay people, sometimes nerds, and some of them are also very perverse people. That's been my problem with Facebook, for instance. They're helping you to make political decisions that do not emanate from any reasonable point. The person who is even managing your algorithm has his or her own biases. There are a lot of us, for instance, on Facebook, who has been practically shut down, shadow banned, because somebody somewhere may not have liked you, and they're not going to say it, and you don't have any process through which you can appeal this. So that is where the conversation should be about. I am for, the tech world to help expand democracy. And it has helped a lot. If we didn't have so many of these tech platforms, I would imagine what will be happening all over the world. But you can also see their biases, in different, even international crises. The position of Facebook on Gaza is different because they have their own biases in support of the state of Israel. Their position on elections in Africa is different, and so this conversation needs to just go beyond just saying, oh, let's put algorithm in place. You can put the best algorithm in place, but somebody still has to kind of flip the switch on so many of these important conversations. And one other thing we must understand is that the tech bros, the technology companies are also out there to make profit. They're like oil companies.
Yeah, but not when it comes to children, though.
Well, they don't care. You assume that they care, but sometimes the fact that those things are left unchecked is that they're getting a lot of views. Their analytics are doing very well. They're making a lot of money. Some of them are even advertising over what you consider as egregious because it's about money. It's just like oil companies that you bring to church on Sunday.
So what's meaning they have no responsibility?
They must have. But I'm just laying it out so that you understand that it's broader than just thinking they care about you. They are the new colonial masters.
I don't care that they don't care, but you must have a responsibility.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But beneath that is you must also look at the issue of class and race. And some of these things, the image of a black child on tech platforms is no big deal. A white photographer can come and take pictures of kids who have no clothes on and say they are saving Africa. You cannot enter America and take a picture of a child, even in a swimming pool, and post and not get into trouble. So that's the issue of race, it's the issue of class.
That was quite insightful, Yele. As much as we are holding the tech companies accountable, we also need to understand that technology has its limits, right? They have this algorithm. No matter how efficient the algorithm is, there will still be gaps. There will still be machine error. So what I think, outside holding the companies accountable, we also need to increase our sense of community. Because the posts were not posted. He didn't just start making those posts. The page is more than a year old.
Yeah.
And at no point did no one feel like this is inappropriate. At no point did anyone around him, anyone in a circle, anyone outside his echo chamber feel like this is wrong and, took action to do better or to protect the child. We all need to do better. Say something, do something.
The videos were being posted by the father of the child himself. And what that tells me, which was also confirmed when the man was eventually arrested, was that he didn't know it was illegal. He thought it was
Because
it was normal. No, yeah, I mean, we're on the same page. I agree with you.
That makes it worse.
You know, so you have a case here. You know, so I don't want to go into the whole why should a father feel this appropriate to expose a 4-year-old girl to adult men. That's a different conversation entirely. But the guy was bold enough to be sharing those videos because he felt that he could do it. All right? And what that tells me is that, especially within the context of the advancement we've made in terms of VAPAT, you know, the information we know about protection of children, you know, the issues around, you know, the female child, you know, there's a lot that we know now that we didn't know before. But within that context, a father still feels that is fine. What that tells me is that there is a section of this community that is not getting the message. That message is not filtering through to them. Okay? And so the question I ask is, I mean, we are in the, you know, the tech NGO world where we churn out data. 1 out of 3 women are sexually abused. We turn out all this data. The question is it getting to people like this? If it's not getting to them, how can we make sure it gets to them? Because one of the things I was speaking with a friend over there is that, look, we all live in a bubble. And sometimes some of us, especially those of us here, we live in an intellectual tech bubble where the people you talk to, they already know and accept what you're saying. They connect with you. But the people, like the father of this girl, they're in another bubble. What do they listen to? The kind of music you and I were talking about earlier, what they listen to now in music is not what we used to listen in the 90s. What they're listening to now is something that is, you know, I can't even pronounce it on air.
Yes.
You know?
We can't.
So the thing is, okay, fine. So how did they get their message? Can we craft the message for them? Okay? Like maybe skits. The kind of skits comedians the kind of content
even those have
I
have issues with those.
we have whatever, you know. So but you know, and then use channels maybe like Instagram, Facebook, and some of that. So a lot of them see in forums and communities that they exist in and try to push this message. Like we said, it takes a community to raise a child.
It does.
And if we're going to protect our children, we all have to be involved, including the people who flagged that video. I think whoever flagged that video needs a lot of commendation.
Yes, the person is on Twitter. Advocacy is about being part of the change that we desperately seek. Zuma is up next, and she's speaking to matters that need changing right at the heart of our family unit.
Don't leave it to chance. Plan it. Did you know that 3 out of 10 pregnancies in Nigeria are unintended? And half of those pregnancies end in unsafe abortions? Did you know that optional abortion is illegal in Nigeria, and most of these abortions are conducted in unsafe environments? Did you know that 2 out of 10 men believe that contraception is a woman's business? And 4 out of 10 men believe that women who use family planning methods may become promiscuous? Did you know that only 2 out of 10 women aged 15 to 49 in Nigeria use contraceptives? There is still a lot of stigma around family planning. People look at it through the lens of preventing pregnancy and not as being intentional and taking responsibility for a future. Family planning is beyond avoiding pregnancy. It is about couples coming together to decide how many children they want and when they want them. It's about creating a loving and stable environment where each child is wanted and enters the world with stability. Imagine a future designed by you, dictated by choice and not by chance. A future that empowers you to take on the joys of parenthood when you're ready, where you are empowered to pursue your desires without interruptions and live life on your terms. A lot of people consider Planned Parenthood a woman-only business. It is a business that affects us all. Your resources are finite. Your time, emotions, financial, physical, and mental resources are limited. The more children you have, the fewer resources you have to invest in other areas of your life, and the less you can bond with your partner. As a sexually active individual, irrespective of gender and marital status, you need to educate yourself about the family planning options available to you. Talk to your partner about your family planning goals. Explore options together and support one another in implementing the options. And most importantly, speak out on the importance of family planning and how it improves the overall quality of life in the society. I look forward to hearing my co-panelists' thoughts on family planning and how we can increase adoption.
You know, the thing is, you know, I looked at some of the statistics you quoted there, and they were quite alarming. You know, 3 out of 10 pregnancies are unintended. That's like accident. It just happened.
You know, we didn't plan it.
You didn't plan it. It just happened. 2 out of 10 men believes that contraception is a woman's business. And that got to me. The reason is because, you know, I come from a religious background as well.
Okay.
And I've seen and I've been involved in a lot of conversations where I've, you know, literally seen a case where the man tells the woman, you cannot use contraception. And most of the time, it's religious. It's religion-based. It's not necessarily based on, you know, common sense. And it strikes me because the issue of family planning is multifaceted. It's a wellness, financial wellness issue. It's not just a question of let's plan a family well, you know. It's a financial wellness issue. Yeah. The number of children you have begins to impact your ability to live a certain standard of life. Right. So it's a financial awareness. But beyond even the financial awareness, whether, you know, I then do not talk about the awareness of the mother and, you know, or the father physically. There's also the economic impact it is having. The more children we have, the more impact it is having on infrastructure, social services that, you know, we need. The more doctors we need, the more policemen we need, the more roads we need. So there is stretching us to such a level. And that's why I have a very, very interesting proposal, all right? That's if you guys will not kill me first.
Let's hear
this proposal. I actually think that one of the ways we can manage this is that we start taxing sex.
Okay, that's interesting.
Is that the end of the conversation?
Hold on.
No, I just
tax sex as in coitus, or do you want
to?
No. Would you like to expand on that?
Okay, so I mean, what I mean is that I mean we've tried it before in this country. It's not as if the first time we're doing it.
Oh, really?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Maybe before I was born, but
no. Why you are? You know, and what we did really was to say that no, we've not taxed sex before in the country. No. I'm saying that we've done something similar by saying that, look, people should be limited to 4 children. Remember that was Babangida's time. Okay, and we've seen what happened in China.
I was just
China
going to say.
Restricted people to just 1 child.
Per family.
We can do the same thing and say, look, in this country, you're only allowed to have 2 kids.
For 10 years.
If you have any extra, you will pay tax on them. When people understand that there is a fiscal penalty to them having more children, they'll be moderated.
I'm divided when it comes to family planning because I come from a large family. My father had 21 kids.
My father has 22.
So you should have been taxed.
That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say
that's
here
what I'm saying.
Is that, you know, when you look at Africans, they don't always think about childbirth or having plenty of kids from the point of view of, oh, it affects my economy. It is economic too, in the sense that a lot of people feel like they have many kids they're also planning their retirement for the future. What is retirement? A father in a rural area in Ondo State or Abia State or Imo State or even in the north has 13 kids. Maybe because of lack of medicine, some of them die. 5 of them will make it. They are the ones who will take care of him because there's no social security in your country. What I mean by social, even if you work for 35 years, if you're an ASP police, you get paid 1.5 million naira after 35 years. That won't last you a year. So a lot of people depend on their kids. There are also societies, agrarian societies around us where kids are used as beasts of burden. You have a large farm, they help you with labor, and then if they make it, they help you with surviving later in life when you are too weak and not strong. Why I said I was divided earlier about it is that, it's not as simple as we make it sound like, the moment you have 2 kids. There are people who are irresponsible. They have 2 kids, they don't take care of them. There are irresponsible people who have no kids, and they are a burden on society. And there are a lot of Africans, in the rural areas who think, as I've mentioned earlier, who feel like having plenty of kids will guarantee them a success of some surviving, and if the rest don't survive because there are no hospitals, the rest will take care of others. I remember when I was first child in my father's, in a whole house, and we're still 16 or 15 left now.
Father, Lord.
And when I was living in the university, and this might sound like a joke, I was trying to, marry someone, and the moment I said I was first child, I never heard from her again.
I don't blame
It was
her.
like, all these guys are just going to move into our houses, wherever you are in the future. They
It
will
was a
never,
wise woman.
yes. So, and it is because that's how they interpret the culture of family. So, but I cannot also neglect the fact that all these things have, planning and economic connotations.
Very interesting angle. Your advocacy brought to mind the duet by the very dapper septuagenarian Sonny Ade and the elegant stallion Oyeka Owenu, the family planning advocacy. Wait for me. You don't know it. You don't know it.
I know it.
You know it. Yes, now. Plenty children, they say, assurance for old age. Mama say make we marry. Mama say make we born. Oh. Plenty children, they but no food to eat. So that advocacy.
I can't believe you sang the song with her.
Why?
I can't believe it.
So this is what I'm saying. It turns out that the only person who practiced family planning was Oyeka Owenu, not Sonny Ade.
Please, I will not have you speak. I'm sorry. I will not.
It's someone I love.
Against him. Leave him alone.
And another part of it.
To watch them like your father.
We discuss family planning, discuss it properly,
As I was saying, that advocacy worked. So in terms of messaging, we need to get the messaging out that you are really a burden on the resources of, I don't know if the government has resources for the people, I don't know, because they seem to be eating it. You are a burden on the resources and they're bursting at the seams. If you need to have children, you need to plan to take care of them. But the most important thing in all your advocacy is partners spending time together. Once the children come like this, like everybody is on your own. The women, my child, the man is like, let me find somebody. That unit, some people feel that having children is more of a curse than a blessing because they lose out on that.
The intimacy.
With their partner. What brought them together in the first place? So I think your advocacy is spot on. It should be well thought of, well planned, and you just can't be churning out children without taking care of them. Minus Sonny Ade.
I think I love your perspective on this because we sometimes forget the African effect, because at the end of the day,
that's why I said it's an interesting
when you
angle.
look at the East, for example, and having children,
apprenticeship,
send them, make money, come back and support the family. So it's more like a hustle, right? When you look at the North, there's also a political effect to it. The more people we have, the more we win election. There's that part. So I feel like once we have the right government in place that understands, because also resources is also one of the key things here. When you look at it holistically, it's resources. The fact that we have to provide for ourselves beyond having to go to work because the work that we're going to is not enough to provide for the family. We have to now create
Side hustles.
what do you call it, factory
Yes.
within our family
Yeah.
to go out and produce
correct.
and come back, whether it's farming, whether it's apprenticeship, whether it's political, whatever it is. So the first thing is, if we're able to put our country together and make sure that we have ample resources for everybody.
And I want to jump in there also, that we must start appreciating that population is no longer a burden. The most prosperous nations in the world today are the most populous nations. China, India. It depends on what you throw at them. You know, we make this very flagrant comment about, people who have kids are the burden on society. They are not. It is a few people who have limited kids in Nigeria who they and themselves and their kids are a burden on our resources. A guy who spends $100,000 per month on a child in the UK to go to school is taking more of your resources than a person who has 20 kids in primary school in Zamfara State, who just needs maybe less than $10,000 to send them to school in this very small environment.
This is a totally different shot you just
Absolutely.
fired. But go on.
Yes.
It is, so we must have these conversations because it has to be holistic. The human brain has become the new oil, the new gold, the new diamond. So if you train a child very well, and they're in the tech world, they're tech bros.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have like 100,000 tech bros in Nigeria than 2 who are the children of families that are well planned. Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Go ahead. I think you wrapped it up.
We planned so that we don't have to leave it to chance. Bright is up next and is bringing our attention to matters of concern beyond our borders.
In 2022, an astonishing $288 billion in venture capital transformed the business landscape in America. Yet, women of color founders received a mere 0.41% of that investment. Despite being the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, these women are consistently underfunded. Addressing this imbalance, the Fearless Fund was established by Ariane Simone to counter the severe funding gap affecting women of color, having already made substantial impact by investing over $26 million in businesses owned by women of color, along with awarding over 350 grants and support programs across Africa and the United States. However, these initiatives faces severe legal challenges. Edward Bloom and the American Alliance for Equal Rights have sued Fearless Fund under the Civil Rights Act of 1866, arguing that its focus on Black women is discriminatory. This legal battle is a litmus test for the future of racially conscious business support programs. Bloom said, and I quote, "The law does not and must not permit racial preferences to achieve racial balancing." In other words, the bar must never be raised for some races and lowered for others to realize proportionality. With all due respect, Mr. Bloom, the bar was raised 400 years backwards for Black people. This case is a pivotal moment for diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in America. If initiatives like those of the Fearless Funds are rolled back, it could set a concerning precedent for support mechanism designed to address racial inequities in businesses and beyond. It is crucial for us to advocate for the preservation and the strengthening of programs that aim to level the playing field, as the outcome of this case would not only affect Fearless Fund, but also the broader trajectory of racial equity and inclusion efforts in the United States, and potentially impact economic opportunities for the African diaspora globally. The impact of the diaspora on Africa's economy is significant. According to the World Bank, remittance to sub-Saharan Africa grew by $48 billion in 2019. If Edward Bloom wins this case, this would affect the funding to support Black businesses, which would drastically reduce remittance. We need to engage in the discourse, support the causes that champion these values, and hold our institutions accountable. Together, we can preserve the legacy of civil rights and push back to a more inclusive and equitable tomorrow.
I think 2 days ago, I saw a video. A black guy was talking about monies that circulated within certain tribes. That the Jews, he said it circulates a lot more, the Jews, the Indians, and the Chinese. And then when it came to the black community, the money, there was an outflow, too much that it wasn't concentrated because black people weren't supporting themselves. The money would always go out. But the Jews, the Indians, and would always make sure the money circulates around their own businesses. Now, I love the idea of the Fearless Fund. No one has ever given you something that is rightfully yours. You have to always take it. So, can I ask, Edward Bloom, is he white or black? Okay, clearly. So that is why he's fighting it, because the black race or other races that are not white have been subdued for over centuries. And I feel there's nothing wrong. If I decide to look after my community, make funds available for us to, be economically viable, I see no reason why anybody should take me to court, or they don't do it to the Jews. You can't try it. They own their lots. So also to the Chinese.
You have to fight for everything you deserve if you're black. And I think black people in the U.S. should go back and demand for their 40 acres and a mule that was promised after the end of slavery. Because without the ownership of land and property, you are not going to be a player in that country. And you are going to see more and more of this. And by the way, you are asking if Edward Bloom was white. Most likely he's white.
He is white.
But you can also find black people who are willing to do what Edward Bloom is also doing.
So what you're saying, in essence, is we should not be on defense, to be on offense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and that is part of the reason why the Black Lives Matter movement was very significant.
Yeah.
It's like once in a while, blacks have to remind America that they are still here.
Yeah.
God bless you. That's what.
And that is what the Edward Bloom said. They push the right buttons, but the blacks need to continuously be on the offense. And ensure that they fight for what is just and right and fight for equality that they are never going to be given. Even when a little is given, there's someone there who is willing to reverse the process. And most importantly, you must also understand that America is still likely a white society. But it's not only a white society, there's also a privileged society of, there's race, there's class, in America. So, and for you to get to that point where the privileges are not just handed over to you as benevolence, you have to be back to Americas of the 60s and 70s where they fought for everything to the last. And that is where America needs to return to. I think, as I usually would say, they're sagging their pants again. And what I mean sagging of pants is like, when you forget that, you keep
Getting
just behaving
comfortable.
as if the society has accepted you. They only accept you when they need to accept you, and in areas where they feel like they should accept you. And where they feel like they shouldn't, they will roll back this. And they will do that to women as well. They do that to minorities,
I really love this advocacy because it's personal, to me. It's an industry I operate in, and Fearless Fund has been quite inspirational to a lot of people.
Wow.
When it comes to funding, women are generally marginalized. I mean, there is a huge gap. Less than 10% of funding in 2023 was to women. And out of that, black women of color generally, it was less than 2%.
My God.
And Fearless Fund came at a time when it became very essential for us to have something to look forward to. I think Blum has a lot of audacity. I don't know.
It does.
Yeah, because it's not just targeting the marginalized, it's targeting the people at the bottom of the pyramid, the people that are actually trying to make something, make a difference. And the fact that women-led businesses, the return significantly more than men-led businesses.
True.
It's a totally crazy conversation to be
Yeah.
had. So I think at this point, we all need to come together and support the Fearless Fund. This cannot be allowed to happen. Everybody needs to lend a voice
Yeah.
and let people know that this is what is going on. These are the consequences.
The issue here is, that's why I say, look, I can analyze this thing from today to yesterday if possible. The point is voting matters.
Yes.
And our brothers and sisters in the US, especially those that are still joking around and saying Biden, Trump, Biden, look, your vote matters. I was listening to an analysis today now, and somebody was saying, look, if Trump becomes the president, guess what? That's going to happen. It's going to have a slot at appointing 2 new Supreme Court justices.
So this case, 2
Yeah.
of the judges are Trump-appointed judges and 1 Obama judge appointed.
So it's going to have an opportunity of appointing 2 new judges,
Yeah.
because you have, like, I think Justice Alito is 82. You have Justice, the Chief Justice, I think 78 or something like that. What they will do is to preserve that majority is that they will retire
Yeah.
and give Trump an ability to be able to appoint 2 new justices. So if there's ever a message to be sent to the people in the US who that's where the jurisdiction for Fearless Fund is. Because no matter, I get what you're saying about how it has impacted a lot of women, from this 20,000, 10,000 loans that they're given. But they can be shut down tomorrow if the people on that Supreme Court says it is anti-Civil Rights Act and all that. And we must get this idea, that, we want to be wokish, there is 2 sides to a conversation. There's no 2 sides to a racist conversation.
Yes, no.
There's no 2 sides to it.
Matters of injustice are relevant to those who see the common thread behind them. It ought to concern all of us.
A clarion call for climate change. Tonight, I want to talk about something that affects every single one of us, climate change. Now, some folks might call it a hoax, a distant threat, but the science is clear. Climate change is real, and it's happening now. Hotter temperatures, rising sea levels, extreme weather events. These aren't science fiction. They're all hallmarks of our changing climate. According to experts, 2024 is shaping up to be the hottest year known to man since they started measuring in 1850. The effects are already being felt globally, and sub-Saharan Africa is particularly vulnerable. We're experiencing more droughts, more floods, and food insecurity. These changes disrupt lives, displace communities, and threaten our very way of life. It's the cause of the herders-farmers conflict and the perennial communal clashes we have in Nigeria. Indeed, the Nigerian government has set an ambitious target to achieve net zero emissions by 2060. I laugh. That means balancing the amount of greenhouse gases we release with the amount we can remove from the atmosphere. To achieve this, we need to invest in renewable energy sources like solar and wind power. We need to promote energy efficiency and sustainable land use practices. These are tough decisions to be made. The question is, are we ready? And here's the truth. Achieving our goals requires a collective effort. The government, the private sector, and yes, every single Nigerian needs to take climate change seriously. Sustainable living should not be fancy buzzwords we say at conferences. It should be the practical lifestyle of the average Nigerian. If we desire a safe and secure future for ourselves and our children, then we must stop playing lip service to climate change. And like my sister Zuma usually says, I would like to hear the opinion of my co-panelists. Zuma, you go first.
I'll be using that too. I'll give you credit. Don't worry.
Oh my God.
So I think achieving net zero by 2060 sounds very ambitious. We are not even close to it. But again, it's always nice to have grand. Shoot for the moon and then you have the land on the skies. Nigerians are generally not focused on sustainability. We are very big on what bothers me the most. Like, there are so many quick wins, so many little things we can do, to preserve the environment, but we don't even inculcate that in our everyday living. From the use of single-use plastic to electricity that we use. You see people leaving on lights unnecessarily. Why? You see people brushing their teeth and leaving the water running. You see people taking a shower, and then, these are little things that, that compounds over time. And then let me come to Lagos. It's literally a concrete jungle. This is the only city I know that it's so difficult to see trees. Yes. Like, why? Again, we all need to do better. Climate change is real. It's not going anytime soon. The weather, the rains in recent times, they are scary. Like, I don't know, so many things going on in the world.
Let me come to you, Kate. The heat. Have you felt it recently?
Have I felt it? It's like it's immense heat where you cannot even breathe. I'll be inside the house and I've had to do additional blinds, So I have those roller blinds where if you bring them together, they close it. I've had to do a darkness one, the one that when it's open, I have to put the darker one so that when I'm inside, I maintain some kind of cool for my body. And I've had to resort to showering at least twice in a day. You don't wipe down, you air dry. Yes, you cannot wipe down. So that, and then it rains. It rains like no man's business. But to the 2060 Nigeria, that's a hoax. I would call that a hoax, a mirage and a hoax. Not when we have generators, not when we have people building houses, including generators, not when we have Nigerians who have turned their homes into factories where they have solar, they have inverter, they have generator, then the rising cost of inflation, which includes rising energy costs, everything, we're focused now on inflation. Nobody's talking about climate change. The rains are coming.
Yep.
It rained yesterday. I couldn't make it to the gym. Why? Everywhere was one plane.
Yeah.
My car is an SUV. I couldn't drive out. I drove back home. We are still using nylons. What I suggested someone about a while ago is, why can't we create initiatives like you said? Why don't we reward people? Are we recycling? In the UK, there's recycling.
Yeah, but that's
Are we recycling?
But that's one of the things I wanted to raise. I don't know if Bright will talk about that. I mean, the EU said that we have a potential green economy in Nigeria that we can create up to $250 billion worth of an economy. And if you look at Lagos, I don't know if you've seen this in Lagos, of these people that are collecting plastics.
Yes.
It has become a very
so what are they doing
big,
with it?
No, they're recycling and producing.
It's not enough.
Some
in the
stuff.
UK, there are 3 or 4 bins. There's the newspaper, there's garden waste, there's plastics, and then they have the other waste. You can even cause an incentive for people to recycle and then reward them. Somehow you return plastics to a place. They give you a coupon.
They give you a coupon, and then you can buy something.
There's so many brilliant ideas out there, but of course, nobody is talking about it till the next rain, and we're flooded, and that's it.
Right.
And, we'll fly 200 people to Qatar. I just needed to add that one.
The first thing is, it always goes back to the government, right? What's the government focusing on? Are we ready to let go of crude oil?
Hajj, 90 billion
gas,
to Hajj.
and say, okay, we want to focus on renewable energy, which crude oils are our only source of revenue. Look at what the Dangote refinery. Are we going to close that down, right? Or how do we want to do? How do we want to structure all of this for it to be effective, and reduce the effect of climate change? So I feel like it begins with the government focus. Whatever the government focus on is what would work. But as long as the government doesn't focus on this, and when the government focuses on something, it cuts across everything when it comes to the policies, when it comes to information, driving information down to the lowest person. This is how this is going to affect you in the next 5 years. Right now, you think you're living, if rain falls and climate change goes crazy, your house will be under the ground.
Yes, right.
Like, people need to know. But as long as the government doesn't focus on it, whether it's states or federal government, nothing's going to change. That's my take.
We are on the course of an energy transition in the world, which means that as we are developing our energy needs now, we can transition into something less harmful. You've mentioned solar, you mentioned
We have wind, we have solar, we have water.
Even water,
we have
hydro
gas.
is, and the interesting part also, which can solve some of the problems you mentioned, is biogas. We can convert the dung of cows into energy.
Exactly.
But as for the heat, let me encourage Kate, don't be showering twice. You are also dealing
wasting
with
water.
Yeah, wasting water. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now we are looking for a solution.
Yes.
What should I do?
You see, people like you also have to understand that consumerism is part of the problem. Who shower too many times, put on too many ACs, and
There's
all.
no lights.
Yeah.
I said
And
air
your
dry.
generator is blaring.
I said air dry.
So
what's my
you're consuming a lot.
solution? What's the solution?
The solution is for you also to transition.
Transition to?
Transition to renewable energy. Use less water. To bath.
So I should burn. I should burn in it.
Dab your skin with towel.
Zuma, the last word goes to you.
This one goes to the elite because they consume.
Who is the elite?
You are consuming inequitably. You see her bragging about having SUV. Get rid of your SUV.
Okay.
An SUV is a gas guzzler.
There's an enemy of God.
You can use a Toyota vehicle
I started with Toyota.
that is hybrid.
graduated.
What are you doing with SUV?
Tell your government they should patronize like
You
that.
are one of the people buying fuel
please.
that is like, hundreds.
About it.
Okay, all right, fine.
Earlier.
Lovely,
Sorry,
lovely.
please continue.
It's time to embrace innovation, adopt sustainable habits, and hold ourselves accountable. Together, we can build a more resilient Nigeria, a nation prepared for the challenges of a changing climate.
Speaking of holding ourselves accountable, I want to hold the Nigerian youth accountable today. I'm asking them, when will you rise to the challenge of leadership? Nigerian youths are not prepared to run. Not that long ago, Senegal celebrated the election of its youngest president. He was 44 years old, since its independence in 1960. Mr. Bassirou Diomaye Faye was celebrated merely a month ago for what would be called a groundbreaking victory for African leadership. Bringing it home, I posed this question during an interview, and I asked it here. When African nations were poised for independence, they had the youngest people at the forefront of leadership. At what point did we lose the ability to sustain this vision of young, vibrant, intelligent leadership in our building of nationhood? I would make bold to blame colonial interference for this change in trajectory. Young leadership made our erstwhile colonial masters uncomfortable, our die-hard veteran leaders who hold on to leadership and won't let the youth have a chance also share the blame for where we are today. Nonetheless, there is a lesson to be learned from Senegal. The presidential change of baton didn't happen by accident, but as a result of serious revolutionary struggle in the face of stubborn resistance from the old guards. So the moral of the Senegalese story is that freedom cometh out of struggle. I would ask again, what are we waiting for here in Nigeria? Some might say that the youth lack experience. To that, I would say, isn't this the same experience that put us in the mess we are today? Experienced thieves, murderers, corrupt people. More than experience, we need leaders with vision and motivation to truly lead the people. At this point, I'll make this assertion. My problem has never been with old leaders, but with old ideas. To drop this challenge where it belongs, we end by saying, where are Nigerian youth with character, mission, and vision to take us beyond the old ideas? Are they satisfied with playing the roles of special assistants and simply tagging along? Is it no longer a case of not too young to run or simply not prepared to run? So I throw this challenge to the House here today. Okay. A lot of you look very youthful, not necessarily young.
It is very important for us to also note that the political structure in Nigeria affect us from running? First of all, let's talk about the campaign and how much money you have to spend competing with people who have 100 times the amount of money that you have. That's one. Two, let's talk about the cultural and traditional and states and capital and all of this division where, the north, the south, the east, and the west. If I decide to want to run for president, I need, to make sure that I have 30% or 40% of each zone. 25% of each zone. What are the possibilities that I'm going to get that, right? And then let's talk about just the fact that the structure that exists, right? Like you said, one of the most important things you said also is the fact that the colonial masters want it that way. And they didn't just want it that way for us, they wanted that way for Africa. They used Africa as a startup capital to run their country. And after they've developed, they are still using us as capital to keep running. And so, as long as we're not free from that, because we're not free from colonialism, we're still there. Whether it's mentally, whether it's digitally, whether it's spiritually, we're still there. As long as we're not free from that, the possibility of a young, focusing on Nigeria right now, the possibility of a young Nigerian, let's say between the age of 30 to 35, even 40, becoming president in this country, I don't see it happening in the next 100 years.
I wouldn't say Nigerian youth are not prepared to run. I would say we are too broke to run. Because when we bring it home, the presidential nomination fund was 100 million. For one of the parties, for another, it was about 50 million. How many Nigerian youth can afford that? And beyond that, we also have the issue of compounding political equity, right? Politics is a long-term game. And over time, you have to build your career over time. Nigerian youth, we don't have such privilege because we start life too late. So by the time we want to start getting into advocacy, community engagement, all over the country, the road is very, very far for us. Again, too young to run. It's a theoretical concept. The practical aspect of it, we are still very far. And we all have a lot of work to do. We need to do a lot of sensitization, advocacy to the young people to understand that these are the pathways that will get you there. And we also need to address the issue of election funding and then the cost of entrance. Because again, 100 million, how?
How old was Obafemi Awolowo when he was the premier? How old was Nnamdi?
How old was he?
He was in his 30s.
30s, yes.
Okay.
35.
How old was Nnamdi Azikiwe?
Yes.
How old was Gowon?
One was 31.
That, rules, this country, Muritala Mohammed, even Obasanjo.
His first time.
Even
The first time.
Yeah.
Buhari was 41.
So, so we talk about, when you say some of these things, we mention it in such a way as if young people have never ruled this country. Yeah. They have. In fact, they led us to where we are today. And it wasn't as if there were no old people at that time when they were ruling. So the issue here is that power will not be given to you
on a platter.
On a platter. Yeah. You have to take it. You have to organize and take it. And I think the first thing, really, the young people must do is that they must educate themselves about governance. Young people are too much uninformed. Sometimes you need to sit down to a young person and just ask them about governance, and then you'll be shocked how much they don't know. They know everything about the latest Davido and Chris Daniels videos, but tell them about how our laws made. No idea.
A revolution is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity. Watch this space for more stirring discussions to keep you both informed and equipped for that business that concerns us all, the business of nation building. Hope you can join us again next week. Same time, same station. Till then, it's goodbye from everyone at the table.
Goodbye.